You will learn mainly 3 things from this simple beginner-level tutorial. You will learn how to record your voice in Adobe Audition, how to edit those recordings, and how to get an audio file from that recording. In the process of doing so, you will become familiar with Audition's user interface. There are mainly 2 types of interface in Audition: single waveform editor and multitrack editor. I will show you how to use both of them. After opening Audition, you will see a screen like this. It is the default workspace. Audition has several different workspaces, and each suite a different kind of editing. You can see the complete workspace list from Window, Workspace. Workspace is basically a layout of components with a different arrangements. Once you get used to Audition's interface, you will find different workspaces suitable for different kinds of tasks. In this beginner-friendly tutorial, we will work in the default workspace. As I said earlier, Audition has 2 kinds of editors: single waveform editor and multitrack editor. You can choose which kind of editor you want to use. You have to use waveform editor if you are working with a single recording or single audio file. I have to create a new audio file and record into it. I will do that in a moment. Let's see what multitrack option asks. For multitrack, you have to create a new multitrack session. A multitrack session can be saved and reloaded later. But for the waveform editor, you cannot do that. With the waveform editor, you can get an audio file at the end of processing. So how do we record audio in Adobe Audition CC? The first thing you need to do is to check if the proper microphone is selected for recording. You can check it from Audition Settings, then Audio Hardware. Check if the default input shows the microphone name you want to use. You can see a list of microphones attached to your computer. I am using a Samsung USB mic for this recording, and that is selected here. If you want to use any other microphone, you have to select that from this list. The default output is the device you will use to listen to the recording. If you are using live monitoring during recording, this device will be used for live monitoring. You can see I have selected external headphones, which is also the system default. External headphones is also appearing here. System default means the device selected in the sound settings of your OS. If I change the audio device from the system settings, it will also change here. It is changed to MacBook Pro speakers as I change the system default. I will change it back to external headphones. So make sure the correct device is selected for recording and click OK. The next thing to do is check the microphone's input level. Double-click inside the meter area, and the input monitoring will be active. Before recording, it is good to check that your mic input gain is set properly. You should aim to reach -12 in the meter during the loudest peaks. Not all your spoken words will reach -12, but the loudest one should do. You do not have to reach precisely -12. Something around -12 is fine. If the loudest peak reaches -12, you are getting a good recording that you can process easily later. Though -12 is not the ideal output volume level. The ideal or commonly accepted level is -3 in the meter, but you can fix that after recording. If you record close to -3, it can cross 0 from where sound distortion happens. Because 0 is the maximum level on this meter. If you take your audio beyond 0, Audition will not increase the volume, but audio data will get lost. Also, recording close to leaves very little headroom for post-processing. Some audio effects may boost the signal, so keeping some headroom, at least 6, is recommended. If you are not reaching -12 in the meter, you may have to position the mic differently or increase input gain from your audio interface. You may have to come close to the mic or talk louder. To record audio, I have to open a waveform audio file. Click on the waveform icon. You have to give the file a name. This file name will be visible inside Audition, and you can switch to different files when you have multiple files. I will get back to this point later. I will give this file name Recording 1. A sample rate of 44.1 kHz works okay for voice recording. A higher sample rate will take up more space on the hard drive, and you will not hear any noticeable difference. Moreover, your audio devices may not be able to handle or process a higher sample rate. If you do not know exactly why you need a higher sample rate, choose 44.1 kHz or 48 kHz. Though a higher sample rate is not useful in most cases, you should not choose a lower sample rate of 32 kHz or more down. Audio quality may not be that good with such a lower sample rate. So I will choose a sample rate of 44.1 kHz. For voiceover, mono recording channel is fine. If you are recording music, you can choose stereo. You can convert a mono recording to a stereo recording later. Mono is also simpler to handle. To keep things simple for voice recording, choose mono. Bit depth should be 32-bit float. If you record in 32-bit float, you will get some benefits in post-processing. After all these things are set correctly, click OK. We are now ready to record the audio. Clicking on the red record button will start recording. To stop recording, press the spacebar or click the stop button. I will let you hear the original recording without any processing.
Adobe Audition is a quite powerful software. If you are looking for a paid software or if you are looking for a good software which can do very good work with voiceover recording and editing, then Adobe Audition is a good choice.
After recording the audio, I got a waveform. This waveform can be edited like a document editor. You can select, copy, paste, and delete the waveform as you do in any text editor. If you want to record another audio, you must create another audio file. The red vertical line is the playhead line, and if I click anywhere inside the waveform, the playhead will move there. If I press record, it will start recording audio from that point. That means if you press record again, it will overwrite the audio. This part was recorded when I second time pressed the record button. If I click the waveform icon again, nothing happens. I have to create a new file from the file menu to record a second audio. Create a new audio file. The process of creating a new file is the same as before. I will name this file recording 2. If I click record, a new waveform will be created. You may be wondering what happened to the other waveform. That waveform also exists, and I will show you in a moment how to switch between these waveforms. I used the spacebar to stop the recording. You can see the name recording 2 at the top. In this panel, you can see all the recordings you have. The currently shown waveform is highlighted by blue color on this panel. If you want to see waveform of another recording, double-click on its name. Now we see the waveform of recording 1. You can also switch between recordings from here. Remember, there are multiple ways to do the same thing in Audition, and as you use the software, you will get used to it. If you want to get an audio file from this recording, you can export it. Go to File, Export, File. You have to give a file name. You can keep the file name you gave for recording, or you can change it. I will change the name. Then you have to choose a location to save. I will save it to the desktop. You can select a file format. There are many different formats available, but I prefer WAV. It works on every system, and WAV is a lossless, uncompressed format. I can choose to save the metadata, and it helps to load this audio faster in Adobe Audition. If I open this audio in Audition later, Audition can process it quickly. You can see the exported recording, and above that a PKF file with the metadata. If you want to share the audio with someone, you have to send just the WAV file. If you want to open an audio file in Audition, drag it to the panel. For example, I will drag the improved audio to the panel. We are still seeing the waveform of recording 1, as that is highlighted. I can switch between the waveforms of different audio from the panel. I can also do it from here. There are other ways to get an external audio file into Audition. You can import the audio file or open the audio file. There are also icons in this panel to do the same job. The red line with a blue icon on top is called the playhead. You can scrub the playhead over the waveform, and you will listen to the audio in a strange manner. You can zoom in or out of the waveform by scrolling. You can fit the waveform in the viewing area from this button. You can activate looped playback from this icon. Blue means the icon is active. There are also some zoom in and out buttons here which I am not discussing. But you should explore those to get an idea. To play audio from a point, click on the waveform and click on play. You can also use the spacebar to play or pause the audio.
Adobe Audition is a quite powerful software. If you are looking for a paid software or if you are looking for a good software,
You can see which actions you performed on a waveform from history. You can travel back and forth in history to get to a previous point. Every waveform has a different history. It is a good place to remind you what changes you have made so far on the waveform. I will be on recording one waveform and will do some basic audio editing tasks. You should practice the basic effects I am going to show. If you practice, you will become comfortable using this, and things will make more sense. The primary purpose of software like Audition is to apply audio effects. These effects make the sound better or help to achieve a particular tone. There are several places from where you can add audio effects. The main place to see what effects are available is the Effects menu. Effects are grouped by the type of task they do. As a beginner, it may be overwhelming to see so many effects, but it will start making sense once you start using those. The same effects can also be applied using the effects rack. On the effect rack, you can stack one effect after another or build an effect chain. Some of the effects we saw on the effects menu may not be available on the effects rack. You may have some common effects which you apply on your audio frequently. You can save that effect rack as a preset. Audition also has some built-in presets for effect rack, which you can browse through to get an understanding. You will see different preset has different effects on the effect rack. I will not apply any preset now, and I will return to the default preset. If you remember, the volume of recording one was not ideal for sharing and needed to be raised. I can increase the volume of the audio through a normalize effect. Normalize effect takes the loudest audio to a level you set. I will explain that in a bit. You may notice some of the effects have the word process beside them. These effects are available through the effects menu and not through the effects rack. You should keep this point in mind. Now back to the normalize effect. You may have noticed that all the waveform audio became selected as I click the normalize effect. You need a selection of audio and waveform to apply the effect to that. If you do not select anything in the waveform, that effect is applied to the whole track by default. I want normalize to be applied to the entire file. So I selected nothing in the waveform, and the effect will be applied to the entire file by default. In Audition, you can set a percentage to dB value for normalization. The highest value you can normalize to is 0 dB. If you set 100% normalize, then the highest peak of the waveform will touch the 0 dB line. All other parts of the audio will get the same amount of increase as the peak. Normalizing audio to a dB amount is more convenient than the percentage. The maximum value you can normalize to is 0 dB. The common practice is to normalize to -3 dB. I will not normalize from here to show you another place to apply effect in Audition. You can apply effects from favorites in a single click. It is a kind of shortcut for effects. You can see two options for normalize in favorites. I will normalize to -3 dB. You can see the loudest peak is touching -3, and the overall waveform grew. The overall volume increased, and you would hear the difference if I played the audio.
Adobe Audition is a quite powerful software. If you are looking for a paid software or if you are looking for a good software which can do very good work with voiceover recording and editing, then Adobe Audition is a good choice.
You see, the audio got louder, and also the hissing noise in the audio. To reduce this hissing noise, Audition has an effect called noise reduction. From the effects menu, go to noise reduction, restoration. Click on the noise reduction process. To remove noise, you have to capture a noise-only part. I will select a noise-only part from the beginning and capture the noise print. I can adjust some settings as I play and listen. I can adjust this noise reduction slider that sets the aggressiveness of the noise reduction. I will also adjust the reduce by slider specifying how much noise I want to reduce. You can go as higher as you want, but remember, noise reduction has a cost. If you set those sliders too high, the audio can degrade in quality, so try to find an optimal value.
Adobe Audition is a quite powerful software. If you are looking for a paid software or if you are looking for a good software which can do very good work with voiceover recording and editing, then Adobe Audition is a good choice.
I will play it again to check if the audio sounds good.
Adobe Audition is a quite powerful software. If you are looking for a paid software or if you are looking for a good software which can do.
It is okay, and I will apply noise reduction by clicking the Apply button. I mentioned previously that you could see which effects have been applied to this waveform from history. It is a good place to remind yourself what changes have been made. Besides waveform, you can also see the spectrogram of the audio. Turn on the spectral display to see audio energy by frequency. The more energy a frequency has, the brighter it will be in spectral display. Some of the regions in the spectrogram look darker as I reduced the noise. If I go before noise reduction from history, you will see some areas were brighter before. As a result of noise reduction, these places have become darker. The spectrogram is a thing for a bit advanced user. Once you gain experience, you can spot issues on audio just by looking in the spectrogram. Let's see briefly how multitrack editing works in Audition. If you want to produce podcasts or mix multiple tracks, you must work with the Multitrack editor. You have to create a multitrack session. Unlike the single waveform, you can save the multitrack session at any point and reload it later. You have to give a session name. I will give Test Multitrack. You have to choose a location to save this multitrack session. I will save it to the desktop. There are some templates for the multitrack session. I will start with none. I will keep the other settings as it is and click OK. You can see 6 tracks, and a mix track is created. All the tracks are empty now. You can either record in these tracks or drag any audio to these tracks. To record in a track, you have to set the input. Here default stereo input is selected, and I will change it to a mono input. My mono input is my Samson mic. To activate recording in a track, you have to arm it. The letter R arms the track for recording. As I clicked R, the input meter started showing the level. If you want to monitor your recording, click on I. It will let you hear the recording through the output device during the recording. I will not monitor live, so I am keeping it off. I can start recording from the record button. You can record multiple tracks at the same time. You just have to arm it by pressing the R. Now both track 1 and track 2 are recording the same audio. If you attach multiple microphones and choose different inputs, it will record both microphones at the same time in different tracks. You should deactivate the arm after recording to prevent accidental recording in a track. You can move the clip in the track to adjust its position. You can drag other audio recordings into any track. You can do it from the media browser. The media browser shows the files and folders on your computer. You can drag it from here or open the folder on your computer and drag it. I will drag a music file I have. You can position the audio to the place you want. Let's play and listen to how the recording sounds with all 3 tracks.
I want to record something in this multitrack. And now
the music track is longer than the other tracks. I can cut the rest of the audio using the razor. Click it to select and click on the track where you want to split. After splitting, get back to selection mode by clicking the I. I can now select and delete the extra clip. I can fade in and fade out the music using the icons at the beginning and end.
in this multitrack. And now this recording will be recorded on both of the tracks.
The music is too loud, and I can decrease the volume by dragging the line.
And now this recording will be recorded on both of
the volume of the spoken words is low. I can increase it from the effect rack. I can add an amplitude and compression effect to amplify. Notice the normalize effect is unavailable as I am adding the effect from the effect rack. I will use amplify instead. In amplify effect, you can choose how much amplification you want. Boost means increase and cut mean decrease. I will add a 6 dB boost.
I want to record something in this multitrack. And now this recording will be recorded on both of them.
The mix track is special. You can add an effect in the mix track, and the effect will be applied to all the tracks. For example, I noticed some noise in the spoken tracks 1 and 2. Instead of applying noise reduction on those tracks separately, I will add it from the mix track. The noise reduction process effect is unavailable, and I will use denoise instead. I will use light noise reduction. If all the editing is done on multitrack session, I can get a single track from all the mix. Go to the multitrack, mixdown session to new file, entire session. A new file is created, and you can see here the test multitrack mixdown 1. It has all the things together.
I want to record something in this multitrack. And now this recording will be recorded on both of the tracks. And now,
like before, you can export and use this file in your project. I hope you have a good idea of how to get started with Adobe Audition. I have other videos on Audition on this channel, so please explore. If you want to know anything about Adobe Audition, let me know in the comment. Thanks for watching, and see you next.